The worst thing in medicine isn't that we don't know anything about nutrition. We don't know anything about healing. That's not even the goal. The goal is to diagnose and treat. This is some wicked stuff. And what people need to do is say no. So what you want to do is find out what's going on so you can reverse it and heal the person. Pharmaceutical treatment should be used like surgical treatment. When nothing else works, you've tried, what are you going to do? The point is you need to be truth-based. Otherwise, you're hurting yourself. Long term.
Welcome back to another episode of Beyond the Briefcase, where we unpack law, life, and leadership with some of the most forward-thinking minds around. Today's guest is someone who's redefining what it means to age well, lead well, and live well. Dr. Michael Varveris is not your average physician. He's triple board certified in internal medicine, clinical lipidology, and anti-aging, regenerative, and functional medicine. His work extends far beyond the traditional system. In his practice, he helps professionals, entrepreneurs, and high performers reclaim energy, clarity, and longevity. He also hosts this bold, brilliant radio show, Make Your Body Great Again, where he challenges medical myths and brings science-backed solutions to the airwaves. If you've ever wondered whether you're doing enough to stay sharp, physically, mentally, and emotionally, this episode is your wake-up call. So let's dive in with Dr. Michael Varveris. Before we dive in, thank you for coming on the show, by the way.
Hey, greetings. I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
It's nice to have another local Naples professional come on the show. What's one self-care habit, medical or non-medical, that you swear by that others might find surprising?
Others might find surprising? I don't know about that, but I swear by you are what you eat, eating food that processes and digests and works for you and energizes you. You know, good food is, number one, it's what God gives us, right? So if something didn't exist in terms of humans eating it 100 years ago, it's not even food, right? Mm-hmm. So you want to eat food, but it's food that you process well and energizes you, right? So good food should do these things, right? And this is what forgive me, it's not surprising, but this is where you start, right? There's many other things involved. But when you eat food that's right for you, number one, it's food, like I said. And then number two, it's food for you in that when you eat it, you digest it perfectly, right? You don't get burping or belching or bloating or farting or diarrhea or constipation or whatever, okay? You digest it very well. Because, you know, if you read about something and it sounds great and it's not for you, well, it's not for you, right? The book you care about is your book, okay? Anyway, and then it should give you mental and physical energy. So if you eat it and you get tired or mopey or
it's
grumpy,
not the food for you,
or angry, sometimes it's the day, you know, many times it will eat bad stuff at night. And if you wake up the next day and you feel hungover and you didn't drink, what do you think? Okay. So you want mental and physical energy. That's what food gives you, energy.
and
right?
we tend to blame our lack of energy on other factors.
Well,
I think that would be surprising for some people.
Yeah, well, remember, you want what's true. Who cares what you believe or think unless it is true?
And what's true for you is not true for somebody else.
Yeah, you want your truth. I mean, there's global truths, but what you want is your truth. And that's the second thing, right? So number one, you digest it perfectly. Number two, it energizes your brain and muscles appropriately, right? If you take and you want to go take a nap, you take it and you feel angry. No, it's not food for you. Right?
Interesting.
Pay attention. And then the third thing is it should tide you over from one meal to the next. So if you eat, because most people, even if they eat food, they overeat. Okay, remember there's hunger, need for food, and appetite, desire for food. And they should go together. So many times what happens if you're eating something that's not food for you, it might seem the opposite. Like you start eating, like watch me eat pizza. Watch the speed of my first slice and then the speed of slices that come afterwards, and I'll speed up. So notice my hunger is decreasing because obviously I had a certain need of food at the beginning of that meal, let's say 500 calories. And let's say each slice is 150 calories or whatever the heck it is, right? After that first slice, I should only need 350 calories. So my appetite should reduce. If it starts going up, it's the opposite. That's poisoning.
Interesting.
Right? Yeah. So
well, I've heard people that tell me eating in Europe, pizza specifically, makes you feel very different than eating pizza.
Well, a lot of
the
that's
US.
gluten or whatever, but you know, there's specifics, of course, but things to pay attention to for yourself is that. So it's because many times people think, oh, I guess I was more hungry than I thought. No, you weren't.
Probably said that before.
Of course we do. These are things we all do. And we're men, so you know we're stupid. Let's be serious. Come on.
Give me another slice. He ate two. I got to at least have two.
Well, there's that. There's the challenge, of course. I mean, that's a different concept. But anyway, so you start with good food, right? A lot of things, like we know these are true. Well, then if you know they're true, do them. How's that?
Yeah.
Like, for example, one of my first questions I'll ask a patient is, do you believe that nutrition has a lot to do with human health and disease? And everyone says yes. They think it's a trick question, right?
Yeah.
And it isn't just a yes, it's a strong affirmative. Of course, they look at me like, right? And the sad thing is, do doctors focus on that? No, they're not even trained in it. Think of that, just that ruins medicine, just that. Because there is a truth. There's a truth here.
Well, did you take a nutrition class in medical school?
No, that's my point. So let's go over these truths. Truth number one, nutrition has a lot to do with human health and disease. What do you think about that? Do you think that's true?
Yes.
Of course it is, right? Here's truth number two. Doctors should be experts in human health and disease, right? They should be.
Right.
Okay, so considering that, therefore doctors should know a lot about nutrition. And did I have a nutrition class in medical school? I don't know, maybe one class.
I think it's one
So
simple
right
class.
there, then you sit there and say, what's all that about? Do they just know? I mean, forgive me, do they just not know that truth?
Who writes the curriculum?
Or is it purposeful? And guess what? The latter is true.
Yeah.
Well,
so that brings us to the first part of this episode. What prompted your shift from traditional internal medicine to a model focused on regenerative, anti-aging, and concierge care?
Well, all right, so let's go. First off, I always enjoyed nutrition and health and exercise and these things. So what do you think, right? You go bright-eyed and bushy-tailed into medical school. What do you think? They're going to teach you about health and disease and nutrition and how health becomes disease and how you can heal. Doctors are supposed to be healers, right?
Right.
By the way, the worst thing in medicine isn't that we don't know anything about nutrition. Just that destroys it. We don't know anything about healing. That's not even the goal. The goal is to diagnose and treat. This is some wicked stuff, right? You want to heal. Anyway, so I go in there, right? And you're just bombarded by information. And you go into a medical library, for example, and you look, right, see I don't know if they have them anymore. Do they have libraries anymore?
Yeah.
Who knows?
It might be more electronic.
Yeah, exactly. But anyway, you go in there, you see all of these books, right? And you think, well, think of all of this knowledge. And what's funny, later you look back and you realize they know like this. Here's what there is to know. Mm-hmm. We know this, right? I know a little bit more than I used to, right? So we don't really know anything. Anyway, so regardless, okay, then there's things you don't like. Like, for example, I'm crazy enough, this is a joke, so I wasn't going to go into psychiatry. You got to be more crazy to go into psychiatry.
I heard that only the crazy ones go into psychiatry.
Remember, all jokes, there's a little bit of truth, right? And pediatrics, I love kids too much. Not that, you need people. I'm not saying. It's just,
fair.
Like, for example, if I cause you pain, actually, it would probably make me happy because I've just met you and, no, I'm kidding. It was a joke. But another joke. But, like an adult, but a kid, they don't understand that, right? Mm-hmm. So anyway, I didn't want to do pediatrics for that reason. Gynecology for other reasons. Surgery, I could not get through the hazing of that residency. No way. So I went into internal medicine, right? And interesting, this was the time of Hillary Care and all of that stuff. So I actually did a year of internal medicine. And I didn't know what I wanted to do, but I didn't want to get screwed by Hillary Clinton, right? Mm-hmm. So I went into, I did pathology for a year and a half. Now, after 6 months of it, it was fascinating. And then I said, I can't do this because, you smell formaldehyde forever? No, I can't take that. And then I like talking to people, right? Yeah. And after a while, am I going to start talking to these slides under the microscope, But I'm stubborn, right? Like most men. So it takes me about a year, so I'm getting the heck out of here. Now, what's cool about it is since I did a year and a half of that, it really has helped me to visualize problems.
Yeah.
Which was cool. Anyway, then I went back and I did internal medicine. So come to Naples. Actually, what's funny is my office was right across the street from your studio, which is funny. Which was a little like ambulatory care center because you brought up about your wife at ER. So I was kind of working at kind of a ambulatory care thing. And I worked there.
Around what decade?
This was 97 to 2000.
Okay.
And then I got an opportunity and I took over kind of a rheumatologist practice who did primarily adult medicine. So I'm internal medicine. So for me, it's like I want to help people, right? What do I do?
Yeah.
And what are the main causes of death? By the way, I would argue probably one of the main causes of death they'll never talk about is iatrogenia, physician-induced harm. Iatros, Greek for physician, genia, like Genesis created, right? That's the third leading cause of death. It's probably the first because are people going to admit it? Remember, iatrogenia isn't, chopping off the wrong arm. It isn't blatant. It's just how things can harm. And again, truth. First, do no harm. So it's more important for a good doctor, ancient truth. Yeah, of course you want to help people. Of course you do. But you got to be first focused on, is what I'm going to do going to hurt them? And if it is, I'm not going to do it, even if, anyway.
How many years in practice until you had that realization where you needed to start changing things and you added these additional certifications?
So my point is I had that philosophy all along going in, that philosophy, right? Okay. Like God is real, truth is real, and it's not what I think. It's not what you think. It's what it is, right? I want to fill my brain with as much truth as possible. It's not my truth or your truth. I'm talking about global truths, right?
Right.
Not, that what works for you versus whatever. But anyway, so then what happens, okay, so here's the path. So I wanted to, how do I help people? Okay, I'm not going to do iatrogenia, do my best, of course. And then otherwise, what are the big killers? Cardiovascular disease and cancer, right? So what am I going to do for cancer? I don't know, screening, promote a healthy lifestyle. But if otherwise, I'm not going to treat it. I'm going to refer them to somebody else and pray for them, I guess, right?
Yeah.
But cardiovascular is, hey, maybe I can help. I can promote healthy living, and then I'm going to treat these what do they call them? MACE, major adverse. Forgive me. The modifiable cardiovascular risk factors, right? Well, you can't change what you can't change, right? We can't change, even though some people are insane and want to change their sex. You can't, right? So you're born a man or a woman, and you're born with the genes you have, okay? And by the way, for you or I, or for most people to complain about their genes, shame on us. We got our arms, we got our legs. Yeah. Come on. Most of the stuff we got given us from
Amen to that.
Pretty good. Let's be serious. Anyway, so you can't change your age, you can't change the aging process, but from a cardiovascular perspective, that's going to get to lipidology, which is going to get us eventually, right, to your answer of your question, to anti-aging. So anyway, so what was it? It was, blood pressure, blood sugar, lipid control, okay? Again, don't smoke, et cetera. All right, so there's different pharmaceutical drugs. Again, diagnose and treat, right? And interestingly, when I went and did residency at Orlando Regional Medical Center, one of my attendings was this guy by the name of Paul Zyka. And I didn't realize at the time, but Paul Zyka was big into this National Lipid Foundation. And I remember I saw this invite to go up to Orlando for this lecture about this. I'm like, oh, it's Paul Zyka. Hey, cool. So I go up there and he's talking about advanced lipid testing. He went over all these different companies that do it. And I got hooked up with this company called Liposcience, which was in Raleigh, North Carolina. See, here's another thing that's wrong about lipids. And it's another proof of how business is in. Because a lot of times something's true and it just isn't sold correctly and it just goes by the wayside. And so for example, what exists in our bloodstream, which is aqueous. I'm Greek, but I don't have an olive oil-based bloodstream. I promise you I don't. I have a water-based bloodstream, and so do you. So does everyone.
You supplement with olive oil?
Well, I'm Greek. Come on.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's what a dumb question. Anyway, so it's asking me, do I have Kalamata? I mean, what? What is wrong with you? Yes, of course. Anyway, and my mother's family was from there, so I have to. Otherwise, I'd be in big trouble. So anyway, getting back to where were we?
Well, you shifted from traditional medicine.
Oh, yeah. Anyway, so about lipids. Okay, so what exists in the bloodstream is lipoprotein particles. These transportation vehicles. That's what the L in the LDL, that latter L, HDL, VLDL, et cetera, stands for. So what lipids are the fat. So the LDL cholesterol, most people refer to that as LDL. That's the total cholesterol in aggregate contained within an unknown number of particles. Now, these particles are spheres. The volume of a sphere, which contains the lipid, is the cube of the radius, which means very tiny changes in the radius can lead to dramatic changes in the volume. And the traffic, remember the theory is that what causes cardiovascular disease is these cholesterol-laden particles bombarding your arteriole and getting in there and gunking you up, right? There's that theory they want to push because then they sell these drugs for that, of course. Anyway, so the things that exist are the LDL particles. So for example, imagine I'm trying to figure out the traffic on a highway system on a certain stretch of highway. It's not the passengers and the vehicles added together, right? What causes traffic accidents or congestion or whatever. Right? Let's say I'm trying to do something to lower likelihood of accidents or whatever, or congestion. And if I just said on this stretch of highway, there's 100 passengers, what's the traffic? You don't know what the traffic is because I could have 2 buses with 50 people versus I could have 100 cars with 1 person, right?
Right.
Anyway, so I was doing that testing, and this was called LDL particle concentration. And by the way, the nomenclature of that would be greater than 2,000 nanomoles per liter is a high number of particles, and less than 1,000 is a low number. So this is in the past, and I'm having some of these guys, and I'm picturing in my mind right now, who had a baseline LDL particle concentration of greater than 3,000. Now, if back then you would have said, Mike, why is it so high? I would say, I don't know. Genetics, what do I know? I didn't know, right? So anyway, and then I had him on these powerful statin drugs. I had him on a drug called Zetia, which blocks cholesterol absorption. I had him on high doses of immediate-release niacin. I had him on, a good omega-3 and maybe another drug class called a fibrate. And I don't know, I hope they were listening to my dietary advice, right? And let's say their particle concentration dropped from greater than 3,000 to around 2,200. So it was lower. And again, if you would have said to me, why isn't it lower? I'd say, I don't know, genetics. Now, maybe they're lying to me and they're not taking all these drugs, and maybe they're not doing as good in their diet. What do I know? And I assume, well, 2,300 is better if 3,500 is bad and lower is better, 2,300 is better, and I'm helping them. What else can I do?
That's right.
Okay, anyway, now to your question. So this was many years ago, and I've always been this way. I don't want to hurt anybody. I mean, like when a drug rep comes in with a new drug, I look at the mechanism, and if it looks squirrely, I say, I'm never going to use it. I don't care. It goes against God's design. No. Good luck.
Yeah.
Now, let's say I like the mechanism. It's always interesting. I'd say I'm still not going to touch it. Put it out in the general population. Maybe we'll talk in 5 years, right?
Are you a big believer of the clinical trials coming full force before you?
Well, whatever. Now, but the thing is, remember, they do clinical trials. They're companies. There's money involved. They're trying to sell something. You got to see real world evidence.
Yeah.
Right? So that's why my clinical trial is get it out in the population and let other doctors, patients be the guinea pigs, not mine. I'm not going to recommend something I wouldn't do. If you want to do it, go do it. I'm not going to do it. Most people explain it to them. They're like, yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I was starting to do testosterone. Now we're going to finally answer your question. And of course, I didn't know what I was doing. I know a lot more now. I was just doing what every other idiot would do, right? Yeah. And I was thinking, is it going to make it worse? So I started them on testosterone. But at that time, they shouldn't do it this way, by the way. I would do 200 milligrams intramuscular every other week, which is kind of the dodo bird way of doing it, which isn't the way of doing it, by the way. But anyway, so I would do that, and then I would repeat that test. I'm thinking, oh gosh, I hope it didn't get work. And it was worse, and it was 700. What? Totally normal. Now, the first thing I thought was a lab error. So I get on the phone, I call that company, Raleigh, North Carolina, and I'm bitching. But it wasn't. They go, it's someone else's blood, you guys messed up. No, I would stop the testosterone. It would go back up to 2,300. I would start the testosterone. It would go back down to 700. And then a light bulb went off, because that happened. Now, I'm not saying this happens to everyone.
Right.
But see, here's the reality. When you see cholesterol in the blood, that's what the cells are doing. So what you got to look at it is, and what's usually happened, there's different things, but one of the common things is your body's overproducing cholesterol. Well, your body is so amazing. We take reality for granted. Right? God is everywhere. You want miracles? Everything is miraculous. We're created, sustained, energized by God. All DNA does is codes for what our cells make. Everything happening is not in our DNA. So if you're a scientist and you don't know 1,000,000% there's a God, you're a fool beyond belief. Anyway, so the point is, my body's smart. My body's not stupid. Well, maybe yours is, no, I'm kidding. Yours isn't stupid either.
It's not as smart as yours yet.
No,
right?
no. Yours is probably much smarter. Look at you. Anyway, you got that cool thing around your neck you need to tell me about.
Yeah, thank you.
I like it. Looks good. Anyway, so when you see that stuff in the blood, you got to be like, well, why is my body overproducing cholesterol? Well, cholesterol, this sounds crazy, but cholesterol is the building block of sterile hormones. Crazy. And testosterone is a sterile hormone. So
light bulbs.
So is cortisol from stress. Are you under stress? Just being with you makes me under stress. No, I'm kidding. So we're all under stress.
Maybe it's the color of the light in the room.
It could be.
I got to work on it, make it more warm.
That's right. Just don't make it pink. I will not.
You said back. You're a shadows type of guy.
That's right. That's right. Anyway, so the point is, what was really happening was that person, and this brings up why, of course, that person, that man, his body didn't have testosterone, and his body was trying to fix the problem and couldn't. And trying to fix the problem upregulated cholesterol production. So what you saw in the bloodstream was not the problem. It was the body trying to fix the problem. So when you put them on the drug, not only were you not helping the problem at all, you were actually worsening it. Because since cholesterol production leads to testosterone, even though theirs really didn't, you're blocking it, thinking you're helping them. That's how bad things are, people. The drug isn't just treating it, not healing it. It's making you think you're helping them as you're harming them. Anyway, so right when I saw that, I knew it was true. I'm like, I got to learn this stuff. So then what you have to, and I had to do it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, it's truth. I don't care. Many people, they're like, well, I've spent my career, they don't want to do it because it's difficult. And no, it's truth. Yeah. Truth is cool. So then you have to go get the training. And then what you have to do is you have to practice and get good at it. It takes you a while to get good at it. that's what did it.
That's why they call it the practice of medicine.
That's right.
The practice of law.
Of course.
You're never going to perfect it,
No,
but
you
have
can't.
to work towards.
Yeah, you're trying, but it's like life. You're always trying, spiritually, you're trying to move forward.
Yeah.
Right? Just like everything in life. You want to be, you want your life, life is an amusement park ride. Right?
Something you mentioned before we started the show leads me to this question. You use the fishbowl analogy to describe how modern medical professionals are often treat symptoms over root causes.
Yeah.
Could you unpack that for listeners?
Okay, so here's the thing. So, all right, so we've gone over two major problems in medicine, right? No nutritional understanding. Done. So if a person comes in with a problem that has a nutritional basis, they won't see it. They can't. Okay. And then, of course, the worst thing is they're not healing. So what are they doing? They're diagnosing and treating, right? So do you have characteristics that fit what this book says is this disease? Okay. And if you do, they're not trying to figure out why you have it necessarily or fix it. They're just going to treat you with a pharmaceutical drug or some sort of other intervention. Okay. So what's really happening is there's health, and then health transitions over time towards disease. We'll call that dysfunction, how function becomes dysfunction. And then, so what you're always trying to identify is what's that? What's that dysfunction or dysfunctions? Like, for example, in that case with the abnormal lipids, the dysfunction was lack of ability to produce testosterone for whatever reason, okay? Some sort of hormonal deficiency, right? Okay. So now what happens to many people is they come in, like, for example, we're men, right? If we go into a doctor's office, we don't want to be there. Probably our wife made us, let's be serious, and there's something wrong. We don't want to be there.
Yeah.
Okay, so the doctor looks at you, symptoms, laboratory tests, and if you don't have characteristics that fill a disease, they're going to do one of three wrong things. Number one, they're going to blow you off, right? Well, you don't have this disease.
Everything looks fine.
Everything looks
Mr.
fine.
Goodwin.
And then you think, why am I here? Notice how insulting that is. Well, I guess you're just some maniac who's a hypochondriac, right? Think about that.
It's true.
Okay, these things happen all the time. Number two, now that's bad. Number two is worse. They tell you have a disease you don't even have and put on a drug treatment. You're going to be happy. They validated you have a problem, right? The best thing they're going to do, which is bad, is they're going to admit that your intuition's right, that obviously there's something wrong, and they're also going to admit you don't fulfill certain characteristics, but then they're going to say, let's just see, we're going to keep an eye on this. So what are they doing? Let's just wait until you get worse, and then you're going to have this disease and we'll put you on treatment. So what you want to do is find out what's going on so you can reverse it and heal the person. Now, if you can't, and you've tried and understand these things, that's the only time you should treat it, right? So pharmaceutical treatment should be used like surgical treatment, right? When nothing else works, you've tried, what are you going to do?
Yeah.
We're not talking about like ER medicine and someone's in shock and they're dying right in front of you. Yeah. Then, of course, these drugs are like, you're not looking for
stabilization versus
if you need IV antibiotics in your septic shock, or dopamine or whatever, come on, we're not talking about that.
Right.
Anyway, so what I'm looking for is that dysfunction. It's the terminology I use. And the body, when it's in health, is in a state of balance. Does that seem right?
It does.
Okay, so health is balance, so therefore disease, disorder, dysfunction's imbalance. So if I take a picture of teeter-totter, right? And if there's an imbalance, you can have too little of something you need, want or desire. That'll be a deficiency.
Okay.
Or you can have an excess, too much of something you want, need, or desire. Remember, too much of anything can harm you. Too much water is called drowning, right? Okay. Then I break it. This is how I do it. And then I break it into three areas. One is nutritional. One is hormonal. For example, that low testosterone thing as an example. And then one is toxic. Now, do you have too little of a toxin? I don't know. I don't think so. So when you have an excess, that could be too much of something you want, need, or desire, right? Too much testosterone is bad. Too little testosterone is bad. Just like water, just like everything, right? And then toxin, do you have more than your body can handle, right? Because our bodies created by God and then their genetics. See, genetics is where, like, for example, maybe you have a genetic weak spot here so that, for example, because everybody's different. So you can't take what I said as, I figured it out. Everyone who has low cholesterol needs testosterone if they're a man and estrogen, progesterone. No, but that person had that genetic thing. So in them, genetically, because guess what? There are people who have very low testosterone and it doesn't influence their lipids.
So you're testing these things that the traditional system might not otherwise
they don't.
test.
They don't. And the other thing is testing them correctly, right? There's nuances here, right?
Yeah.
The devil is in the details, okay? So for example, let's just look at steroid hormones or thyroid hormone. These things circulate in the blood. They move in the blood, but they don't act in the blood. right? So for example, we're here in your studio in this room. We got here via a hallway. So imagine, and there's 3 chairs in this room. We're in 2 of them. There's another one in front of some green screen over there. I mean, what's all that about?
Yeah.
Right? Anyway, so let's pretend what you wanted to know is, because there's a podcast going on, right? And let's say this podcast is supposed to have 3 guests, the host, you, and 2 guests. And I showed up, Mikey showed up, but Joey didn't show. So how would you determine that? Could we look in the hall and determine that at all? No. Even though we got here from that hall and we're going to leave. I'm not staying here. I don't care what you say, Mark. I will leave, right? So hormones move in the blood, but they act inside cells. These are facts.
Yeah.
Right? So you want to look at, so what you want to do is you want to look in the room and you want to see who's on the microphones. Because hormones enter the room, just like the 2 of us, 2 men entered this room. We sat in our seats, we bind it to a receptor, and we're interacting with the DNA. We're not really doing any of those things, but that's an illustration.
That's a great analogy.
You got my point?
I do.
So what do? They measure it in the blood. That's how bad it is. So there's no guy, I mean, I don't know. The door's closed, but I don't think there's any guys in the hall. So if we would measure the guys in the hall, we would think there's no guys in the room on the microphones. What? This is the lunacy. Okay. Now, so anyway, so that's true for testosterone and estradiol and progesterone and cortisol, all these steroid hormones. And it's also true for thyroid hormone. They enter our cells. They bind to actually receptors in the mitochondrial DNA for energy. So notice you have to do the right testing. You have to understand it. There's a lot of nuanced stuff here, but it's cool and it's true based. And by the way, here's the thing. You mentioned holistic, and doctors will roll their eyes. That's how insane they are. The body is interconnected. And by the way, this is another reason how medicine is horrific. So imagine the body is a huge machine, right? Which it is. More complicated than a machine. One of our proteins is more complicated than the most complicated machine ever made or ever to be made by man. And we have 1 million of them all interconnected. In fact, again, a proof of God, if you had a machine that could randomly make an average human length protein every second, how long would it take to make one that functions? It would take trillions and trillions and trillions and trillions and trillions and trillions and trillions of universe spans. So the idea that random could create is a laughable stupidity, right?
Yeah.
Anyway, so
well, that's good stuff. Well, let's talk. The hype is real around biohacking.
Okay.
So which practical foundational tools do you recommend for sustained mental clarity and physical energy?
Oh, let's go back to the point I was trying to make. Okay, the body's a machine, then I'll get into the biohacking.
Yeah.
The body's a machine, right? So you gotta, and here's what they do. So imagine there's a screw over there called testosterone or whatever. They go over and they look at it and say, this screw is loose. Compared to what? Compared to what I think it should be. Okay. And then they tighten it. Is that how? No. What would you do for any machine? Imagine they did this. You say to me, let's say I'm a mechanic, and you bring a car. My car ain't working. And I pop the hood, and I say, hey, that spark plug looks a little loose. And I tighten it, close the hood, and say, drive home.
Makes sense.
No. You're going to tighten it. You think, well, maybe that's it.
Makes sense to a layperson.
No, but of course not. You tighten the spark plug, and you say, try the car. And if it doesn't start, that wasn't it. Had nothing to do with it. So for example, you need to be holistic. So what you need, no one does this. You need to see the testosterone. You check all associated things with it. You see all the other hormones, all the other systems. Vitamin D plays into it. All the steroid hormones, cholesterol, other things, kidney, whatever, kidney function, blood, hemoglobin. And then you tweak it and you come back. And you know how you know it helped them? Not if the testosterone went up necessarily. If, oh, look, your cortisol's better and your estradiol's better and your cholesterol's better and your vitamin D's better. You see my point?
Yeah.
So with biohacking, number one, if something's not, it all depends. Like people, I don't know if you're talking about peptides or what you're talking about right now, but if something's not normally found in the human body, I'm not doing it. So if you're doing a peptide, and if, for example, I use one peptide a lot. Now, peptide is, proteins are polypeptides, right? They're very long chains. The average human protein is 375 amino acids. By the way, that spike protein demon death thing was about 1,440 amino acids, humongous protein. Anyway, so these little peptides that people get are, a few amino acids, right? One I use all the time is called glutathione. It's a tripeptide. So I'm not sure when you're talking about biohacking necessarily.
Well, that's a form of biohacking. You're supplementing with something.
But that's fine. But what you like to be scientific about it. Belief in God is fine. You don't believe, you got to believe in things and see it. Show it to me. I'm not from Missouri. Show me. And how you'll see it, it helps other things and doesn't hurt anything. By the way, if you do something that's hurting you, I don't care if it's helping you. Don't do it. Don't pretend you know more. Again, first do no harm. Don't just because something's, a fad right now. So so I'm okay with anything. Is it natural? How do we know you have a low level? And how do we know? So basically, we were talking about this earlier for yourself. If you're going to add something by health, number one, when you start with foundational things, your eating, your activity, your exercise, your body composition, right? I'll put that in a hormonal thing, insulin, kind of our eating vibe. And then cortisol, our stress vibe. Are we happy? Is our life an adventure?
So
right?
does finding these things out require monthly blood testing?
Well, it depends. There's this wise guy in Tibet. He's on this mountain. He's got the Fu Manchu thing. You have to go up all these stairs to get to him. He knows the answer to every question there is. The problem, Mark, is his answer is always the same. It depends. See, it all depends on what you're talking about, right? So it depends on the person, right? Like, for example, let's say we look, and what I'm always trying to do is say, are you metabolically strong?
Yeah.
Not just non-diseased. So you want all these dysfunctions to be functional. You want your nutritional system to be an A or a B. You want your hormonal system to be an A or a B. You want your toxic inflammatory system to be an A or a B. Forgive me, Matt, whatever. It's an MA.
I don't do that on the phone. I figured I might as well.
He helped me. I'm a schmuck.
If you call me Mark 6 more times, I might have.
Now it's a problem. You know what it is? You mentioned Dr. Gutman. That's where you
I remember.
See you, and I know.
And I was already making that connection. I was like, he must have remembered
that's
that.
Because you brought up my Marky Mark. Matty. All right, we like Matt.
We'll have to have Mark on the show.
You got to
so
have he's with the third seat. Matt didn't show. I mean, Mark didn't show. Matt showed. What the hell am I talking about? Anyway, so is it natural? Anyway, so remember the foundational things: insulin and cortisol. Purpose, life's an adventure. Right? I was mentioning this earlier. All of our lives are amusement park rides. You want yours to be, a roller coaster where you're going up and down but moving forward. Not a Ferris where you're going up and down and going nowhere, right? So this is, and again, God is real. We are, the life you care about is eternal life. Sorry. So we're here, and we're really here to help each other to join that family. Forgive me. But we want to love people. We want to, we want, again, have a purpose. It's an adventure. Live for today, live in the present, these things. Those are foundational.
Okay.
Then you go from there. Now, if you're going to add things to that, all right, number one, why do you think you need it? What's the proof, right? Number two, how do you know it's helping you? And again, it's by doing other things that benefit you. How do you know it's not harming you? And again, if you see, and if it's doing something that's harmful, by the way, when you feel things, they're real. But other things, like right now, guess what? Do you feel your blood pressure? Because I don't either. But it's real. There are many things that are real that we can't feel.
Do you feel a quantum field around you?
I think I do. I know you don't.
But it's real.
No, but I mean, prove it. I'm okay. It's like, I'm surely not going to lock myself to what the schmucks are doing. But you don't want to just do everything the jack of. You're going to hurt people, right? Because if you don't need something, it's hurting you. So again, what's the reason? I'm open.
Yeah.
How you know it's helping you? It doesn't have to be a bunch of things, but at least something that's measurable in some way. And how you feel is something. I'm just saying it's not everything. How do you know it's not hurting you? And then the less, the better. Because, they're trying to poison us on so many different things. Our liver only has so much energy. Believe me, so many people walk around, they have weak livers.
One thing
So taking too many things you don't need, brother, is not good. It's going to hurt you over time.
Yeah.
So less is better if it works.
My physician wife tells me all the time, you just can't keep taking all these things.
It's going to hurt you.
Yeah.
So what you need to do,
it's marketing. So these people are just really good at marketing.
They're just trying to sell something.
Right.
Here's the other thing you got to realize too, and it's true of everything. Like, all right, when they do, because remember, they don't care about truth. They want truth that makes them money. And maybe the truth that makes them money ain't even true, right? So remember this, when they do, pharmaceutical studies, whatever, all they're looking for is they find this mechanism of what they want. If you're stupid enough to think that's all that chemical binds to, you're a fool. So, for example, let's say there's a drug called an aromatase inhibitor, right? And it's a drug that blocks to this enzyme called aromatase, which converts testosterone to estradiol. Okay. So it's going to potentially raise testosterone to estradiol. Okay, so be it. Putting aside whether they need it or not and all of that, if you think the only thing that chemical, not designed by God to be in human bodies, is blocking that enzyme, you're a fool. And they'll never look at that. Do you really think,
well, how do you look at it?
That's my point. That's why you see it as it's causing harm. You have to, number one, be open-minded, right? And again, you only use the pharmaceutical if you have to, right? See, use natural things. That's where you start with foundational things and you build from there. You know, the top floor maybe is pharmaceuticals. Most of the time you never you don't need to do that, okay? But when you get there, you need to sit there and watch. And it's the same thing. So if you start, believe me, if you start anything and something funny happens afterwards, the first thing you ask is, what did you do recently? And here's a real funny one. Let's say a person comes in, and this is very common, right? A person comes in and they're having some unique thing they think happened. Oh, I took this drug and this happened. And the doctor's never seen it, right? And
They've
they
never
act
seen
like
the thing that happened.
Yeah, and they're acting like that means something. That's like me saying, Matt, Mark, Matt, Mike, Matt, Mark,
Matt.
Where's Mark?
You got it.
I got it, thank you. So anyway, imagine I said this to you, Matt. I said, you know what? Watch this. Watch my brilliance, because I control reality. I've never seen a camel blink, Matt, which proves camels don't blink. That's ridiculous. No, but that's about some people. It's like, so maybe you're seeing it for the first time here, doctor. So please, anything new you do and anything that happens afterwards, the first thing you think of is, did that do it? And the answer always is maybe. So yeah. So what you need to do with all of these things is just, don't start with biohacking. Start with good diet, good activity, good exercise, good food. You know what I mean? Because remember, the answer to a problem is what it really is. So let's say someone's stressed out for whatever reason. You know, do you really think so what's the answer? Fix that, which is not the easiest thing, don't get me wrong, but that's the true answer. So how do you fix it? Do that. Do you think the true answer is, I'm going to take this weird peptide over there? No, it's not. You get my point? So it's basically, it's true based. So I'm open to anything, right? You start with foundational things, right? And as long as it's natural, okay, what's the reason you think you need it? Okay, let's see if it helps. And again, you're looking at things outside. How you feel does mean something. It just doesn't mean everything. So, and then in terms of blood testing, it depends. Like, for example, obviously if you start something new, you're checking a blood test tomorrow is ridiculous. Checking it in 3 years is ridiculous, right? So when? It depends. You know, some things maybe you want to check things in 2 weeks. Some things maybe you want to check in 3 months. Kind of depends on what we're talking about.
Okay, so it may be irregular drug or blood testing.
Yeah, it would depend on the situation. You know, the way I usually do my blood testing, try to have like certain standards or whatever. So for example, let's say you're how old are you, right, by the way?
43.
God bless you. Look at you, baby. So anyway, so you wouldn't even, I would say for a person over 50, so you're below 50, I'm kidding. You know, whatever the age is. But anyway, so I would say maybe get certain degrees of blood testing, looking for all these dysfunctions, all this stuff we talked about, maybe do it once a year. And if it looks good, let's do it once a year. Now let's say it doesn't look good. All right, and let's say we correct it with some natural stuff. Once it's corrected, maybe every 6 months. Then if we haven't corrected it, or maybe if we're using a little funky stuff, that's where you might be checking it every 3 months, or depending, you know.
Well, so many people out there, especially burnt out professionals, high performers, they're looking for shortcuts for things.
I know, see, yeah. And by the way, we already talked about their problem. It's cortisol. That's what it is. And that's because it makes them, they feel inflamed. They don't have energy. They don't have focus. Now, there could be more to it. But usually, what do you think it is? Like, for example, if you or I have a problem, look at us. Is it going to be insulin? I mean, it could be, but it's much more likely cortisol, right? We're driven, you're type A. Look at this guy's place here. This guy's place is incredible. He's into everything, but you're still human.
Right.
You're not like that, what was that X-Men character, Wolverine made out of adamantium or whatever, right? You know what I mean? You're a human being.
I like to think sometimes we can be like Wolverine.
Well,
Maybe
I know, but that's
day.
the point. Who cares what we think if it's not true, you know? And that's the thing. And so cortisol is a lot of it, right? And what happens is when that system gets messed up, it causes all of these other problems. So imagine it's like dominoes falling over. So for example, let's say your growth hormone's messed up. So, or your testosterone, why? What's the first domino? Because that matters. So for example, let's say a person has low testosterone or low growth hormone or whatever, and it's because their cortisol system's out of whack. What's the real solution? Fix that. Now, easier said than done, of course, but that's what you need to do. So the point is you need to be truth-based. Because again, otherwise you're hurting yourself long term, Anyway.
Interesting. Well, we already talked about some of these things. You've covered a lot. I didn't even have to ask you half the questions that
I make it all up, so it's good. Don't worry about it.
Well, so let's talk about someone that is over 40. Okay. If someone age 40 and up feeling mentally or physically foggy,
right?
If they want to reboot without fancy gadgets,
right?
is the place to start simply with diet?
Well, here's what I would do. I'm biased, but what you want to do, what's wrong? What's going on here, right? So I would see a doctor knows these things, like me, or whatever.
Yeah.
And then what I would do is let's look. Tell me your story. So right there, when they say that, okay, it could be nutritional. It's much. By the way, with that stuff, it's more likely hormonal or inflammatory with those symptoms you've just mentioned. So it could be nutritional, but that's very unlikely with that.
So do you have a core set of tests you'll do regardless of the person's story?
Yes, but then there's things we'll add. Like for this person that you just mentioned with those things, it's least likely to be nutritional, so I wouldn't delve into that too much, but I would.
Okay.
It's most likely to be hormonal with that energy stuff and all that you just mentioned.
Yeah.
So I'd look at all the hormonal systems correctly to see how they all play out, and the likelihood that person you'd see the problems. And then I'd also look at toxic inflammatory with that brain fog or that stuff. Mm-hmm. Believe me, all of us are walking around poisoned. It's amazing.
When you talk about toxic inflammatory, I know there's ways to control inflammation, reduce inflammation with things like cold plunging and all that. But the toxicology, the detox, there's ways to detox by fasting. And,
But see, that's the point. You got to know it's working. But the cold plunge, how do you know that's just a treatment? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it can I feel better. So, okay, it's treating it. That's the thing. So you want to get all the data. And then what you want to do is try to fix it, heal it, reverse it. Mm-hmm. You know, like for example, imagine a person says this: I used to feel fine. I didn't do a cold plunge. Now I feel inflamed, so I do a cold plunge. It helps me. I'm happy. I like that.
Well, how do you measure inflammation?
Well, there's ways. You know what I mean? There's ways of doing it.
Well, as a non-physician, and many non-physician are listeners,
that's my point.
Doc,
you look at symptoms, right? Like for example, what other symptoms are involved, right? Like for example, usually inflammation, it can be connected to nutrition, but it's usually going to be hormonal or it's going to be toxic inflammatory.
Will sleep have anything to do with it?
Yeah, see, that could be either. So hormone, that one distinguished. So what you'd be looking at, like for example, here would be the clues. Let's say a person says they have skin things or gut things or sinus things or lung things or prostate things or bladder things, linings. So if they have inflammation and they have these weird rashes or sinus problems or a funny cough or bloating, that would suggest toxic. Because when you're toxic, the usual connection is to linings. So, right? And then if on the contrary, the person doesn't mention any of that, but mentions hair loss and loss of muscle mass, and then you think maybe more hormonal.
Yeah, and hopefully not something worse.
Yeah, usually, Now, by the way, that's a good point, because where do you think bad disease grows? In bad soil. So if you get there, and again, you can't change what you can't change. And these physical bodies will die. And again, what's most important is spiritual stuff, putting that aside, okay? So understand that. But, and again, the way I look at this, and again, for us to complain about our genetics, please, okay? But if you look, and if your nutritional system is an A or a B, and you're looking, and I'm telling you, the likelihood is 99%, your listeners right now, none of this is being done for them. Hormonal systems, toxic inflammatory, all of that's an A or a B. The likelihood of something bad growing like cancer is not zero, but close. And if it would happen, you did everything. See, what's nice, you want to get all that and you follow it. And then all of a sudden, here's how cancer would grow, right? Imagine you do these things and everything looks good. They've changed their lifestyle and it's helping them and you know it. That's where they have to work with the doctor who understands these things. And you've done what you need for the hormones and whatever. And everything looks wonderful. And you're saying, hey, you're looking great. I'll see you in 6 months. Hey, if you want to see me sooner, whatever you want. Okay, and they come back in 6 months, and all of a sudden, something's developing. And you say to them, whatever, all of a sudden, they're starting getting inflamed. Something's going on.
Yeah.
And you say to them, hey, are you still doing everything we talked about? Yeah, that's when you say something else is brewing. And you can catch things in their infancy. So that's how you do preventive medicine, actually.
Well, so what overlooked labs or assessments do you wish more professionals requested from their regular doctors?
Well, it all depends what you're talking about. I mean, first off, they need to, but the doctor here's the problem with the test. Tests need to be interpreted. Tests don't do anything but answer a question. The doctor,
so just simply asking your doctor for this test.
It doesn't matter. If they don't even know what to do with it, how's that going to help you?
That's good
You
stuff.
get my point?
Yeah.
They have to know what to do with it. See, what helps you is treatment. So therefore, they have to interpret the test appropriately. So there's a lot to this.
Yeah.
So, that's why, listen, people are good at what they do, right? You're a smart guy. You couldn't do what I do, not because you may be smarter, you don't do it. Same with vice versa.
Yeah.
Right? So you need to go to someone who does this stuff and you work together as a team and you listen to what your body says. Because if both you and I agree and we're wrong, we're wrong. Your body just told us, okay, we'll figure it out over time.
True.
Yeah, so you want to do, that has to be your focus on it.
So how do you help people move from reactive healthcare to empowered longevity-based living?
All of these, I mean, I think, are the same kind of answer. What you do is, how healthy am I really? So
That's why I said you already answered a lot of the questions.
Yeah, healthy am I really? You go and you talk. But see, the doctor knows what question. It's not just random stuff. When they're saying, they're moving, right?
Yeah.
You want them thinking. Everything is like Watson and Sherlock Holmes.
Yeah.
Right. So, for example, whenever a test is
elementary,
exactly. Whenever a test is recommended, here's the question: what are you going to do different with that test, doctor? And they have to have an answer. Well, we'll see. Not thoughtful. Be thoughtful. Imagine how wonderful reality would be if everyone was thoughtful. We wouldn't have divorces, wars, murder. Oh my goodness, it would be a wonderful world. Thoughtfulness, wisdom. Wisdom is what you want, not knowledge. See, knowledge without putting it into perspective and foundational grounding things can confuse you and trick you, especially when people are trying to sell you things. So again, you want it depends on the symptoms, and then based on those things, and the doctor knows what questions to ask. You know, when they mention something, they're doing their Watson and Sherlock Holmes thing. So when you mention like not just random things, right? So you want like, because questions are tests, aren't they?
Yeah.
Right? And then you say, okay, based on that, here's what type of analysis. Let's see what your body says. Here's my before, and the doctor should have a theory before the test, right? Based on, if you just walk in, well, they can even walk in. You walk in, I say, okay, it's stress. Why is this guy coming to my office? He's slender. He looks like he takes care of himself. That's my first thing. Maybe I'm wrong.
Yeah.
Maybe you're missing a leg. Oh, no, he's not. He's got all his, you know what I mean? You get my point?
Yeah.
So everything has to be, and it makes it fun. It's cool. Being a doctor is so cool. You get to talk to people and they care about you and you care about them and you help them. It's wonderful. That's what's so sad. But they're doing this all throughout society, aren't they? Right? They're dehumanizing us. That's why all this AI stuff, man, it's all bad things are going to happen, man. Right? Like, again, notice what they're doing. They're taking the root of something and corrupting it. They're corrupting the fruit. Like, for example, doctors are supposed to be healers. Make them so they don't even know what that means. Same things happen with teachers, right? It's everything in our society. We sat back and let them do this. Everything. No, they're teaching you what to think instead of how to think. See the little satanic perversion there, little tweak, and all of a sudden it's trashed, right? And what people need to do is say no. I'm not doing it, baby.
That's what I like about the Socratic method they teach in law school. Is mostly theory, and some of the best universities are on theory, where they're teaching you how to think.
Exactly. That's ancient wisdom. I mean, those people back there are so much smarter than us. Yeah, they didn't have access to the internet.
Yeah.
But they knew multiple languages. I remember this. I don't remember most of my teachers, but 5th grade, my math teacher, Mrs. Moskovich, right? I don't remember most of my teachers. I remember her. I remember that's when we were finally going to be allowed to use calculators. And she knew. She said, I don't know if this is a good idea. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I remember.
Right? And look where we are. So yeah, you want wisdom. You want thoughtfulness. You want someone who's passionate. And you want someone who knows God is real. Hold on, this is very important because of what happened with COVID and everything, okay? Okay, you trust God, you trust truth. You don't trust yourself and you don't trust other men. And if someone says something and it's 1 + 1 is 3, it ain't. And you don't have to explain why they're doing it because they're wrong. Either they're stupid or they're evil and think you're stupid, and I don't have to explain why they're wrong. I mean, think of what happened with COVID. If you think that was the beginning of this, that was a culmination. I mean, think of the mania of this and the doctors went with it. And see, people since the doctors are saying, oh, I guess it's true, it doesn't really make sense. Like, if a mask works, it doesn't matter if someone else wears one, right? If a vaccine works, it doesn't matter if you get it. And they were making it, that's magic thinking. Just think, and doctors went with that. And they were trying to imprison people. Let's just show you how irrational and insane that is. Let's just think this out. All right, imagine I'm on a blood pressure pill, and I tell you that, like, oh, Mike, okay, well, maybe you should listen to your own advice and lower your stress. And no, I'm Matt, I'm on this blood pressure pill. Okay. Matt, it's not working for me. You're thinking, well, maybe it's not the right answer. No, Matt, it's because you're not taking it. What? The drug ain't working in you because I'm not taking it? You're crazy. How about a cholesterol drug? How about a chemotherapy drug? My chemotherapy's not working because you're not taking it. How about an antibiotic? Yeah, I have a bacterial infection and my antibiotic's not working because you're not taking it. How about a vaccine? How about if I say, you know, Matt, I decided to get the shingles vaccine. This is the insanity, guys. Okay? What percentage of doctors out there went with this stuff? I saw it and I was like, no, I don't care. Chop my head off. And I meant it.
Less than half or more than
No,
half?
it was tons. Believe me, the only time I talked to a doctor and they ever made any sense they were believers in God. I'm telling you, there's something spiritual with this. I'm telling you. But anyway, imagine this. I say I got a shingles shot. Like, whatever. And a week later, I got shingles. And you're thinking, it doesn't sound like it worked. I said, no, Matt, it's because you didn't get it. You think you're insane. Well, guess what? Oh, I got the COVID shot. Oh, okay. So if a COVID shot works, the point is it protects you from these bad COVID things coming to get you, right? Well, then what do you care if I have it or not? No, you have to get it. That's a cult. That's a religion. That's a ritual. That's a sacrament of the Church of Satan, okay? And they didn't see this. What's wrong with their minds? So I'm telling you, you need to make sure your doctor is a believer in God, knows God is real. And, 100%, that was the most important thing, right? And then hang out with humans. Are you a human? I'm a human.
Yeah.
Let's stay with our own kind because we are human. And these people are confused.
Well, that leads me to think that of all the dangers with people relying on AI now to interpret
Who's
data.
saying it? What do you think? You'll see this all the time, so often.
Well, people they don't know how to think if they rely on AI too much.
But the problem is, it's even with the doctor, you have to trust them. But this is much worse. By the way, just talk about medicine, how bad it is. What medicine should be like what law should be, one-on-one. Okay, the idea. See, like, it's like our federal government, right? You want power separated to not have tyranny. You want the executive and the legislative, right, and the judiciary, right? Okay, to protect the people, right? Okay. Well, guess what? Let's just look at medicine. You should have doctors over here. We'll just use three you should have hospitals over there. You should have the insurance industry over there. Doctors should never be allowed to own hospitals or insurance industry. Insurance industry should never be, and look where we are. So if you go to me, it's me, right? Imagine where we are right now, because then what are they telling you? Then you get to AI? Because what's so funny, you look at so many of these things. Oh yeah, they recommended a chemotherapy. Okay.
Who's they?
Whoever, like your oncologist, whoever. Okay. And I'm like, okay, well, let's just look at the studies. And I'm telling you, so many of these studies, for them to say it works means there was a statistically significant difference, meaning there was less than a 5% chance it was chance of a particular endpoint. And the difference might be teeny. For example, let's just talk about cholesterol drugs. Okay, in what's called primary prevention. Primary prevention would be a person who has risk of cardiovascular disease and certain cardiovascular risk factors and supposedly abnormal lipids, and you get them on one of these statin drugs, for example. And then one group treated for 5 years with sugar pill, one group treated with the statin. Okay, the absolute risk reduction between the two groups was 1%, meaning 1 per 100 was helped. That was statistically significant. But guess what? Do you care? If I said to you, imagine I said, hey, come to this meeting, and you show up at the meeting, and I'm up there with a microphone, and I tap the microphone, saying, hey guys, you were invited to this meeting. Guess what? We have a crystal ball, and you're looking around, you see guys, smokers, and fatsos, and whatever looking around. I don't know, who are these people? They look much more unhealthy than you do, or I do, let's say. Okay, whatever. And they say, hey, guess what, guys? Yeah, we have a crystal ball here, and it tells us that of the 100 of you, 5 of you are going to have a heart attack or a stroke or a cardiovascular event or cardiovascular death in the next 5 years. You and I say, we're leaving. It ain't us. They say, no, before you leave, hold on. If every one of you takes this drug, instead of 5 of you, it's going to be 4 of you. And now you're thinking, there's one guy in this room that's going to help. I know it ain't me.
So I'm still out of here.
I'm out of here. So the point is, that's what they say works. And I'm telling you, we look at these chemotherapies, many times what it is, it's a statistically significant teeny difference of what? Many of these chemotherapies, it's like, oh yeah, there was a whatever tiny chance that they're going to live 3 months longer. So imagine going through, I would rather, you know what? I'm packing my bags, I'm going to Mykonos, and whatever happens, happens. I'm not taking this chemotherapy and getting neutropenia and blah, blah, blah. You know what I mean? To live 3 more months? That's not even living. So that's the point. So and imagine what AI will say. I promise you, AI will say to you every day on your phone, time for your COVID booster. Time for your COVID booster. Time, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
If you trust that, you're gone. Because it's already bad. And imagine that. So, absolute power absolutely corrupts. And again, it's what do you trust?
Yeah.
If you trust that, you're a fool. Anyway, that's human nature. It's like, oh, but I wish. Hey, I wish there was Peter Pan too. How's that? How about Santa Claus? What is this childish nonsense?
Yeah.
And they're manipulating that. That's why they want us to be children.
One thing you made me think about is when a client of mine comes to the office already having done research. We just had this happen a couple days ago, and they sent us a long email with what their AI prompt was and what the result was. And doctors have been dealing with it much longer with like WebMD and doc.com, whatever it is. And so how do you, I mean, that's a stupid question to ask you. How you deal with someone like that?
It's easy. It's real easy. It's an easy way to deal with them. You come there, say, that's interesting. You just take over.
Yeah.
You say, what's going on? What do you think? Here's what I think,
I look at poorly drafted documents. I look at inadequate documents that were supposedly adequate, but they already have this opinion, so they're questioning the professional they came to for advice.
Well, it depends. It all depends. It depends, because what it has to be is a mutual respectful relationship. You know what I mean? And it's like, what I want, it's like we're friends. We're a team.
That comes back to the one-on-one you talked about.
We're a team. It's kind of like this. I'm the quarterback. You're the wide receiver. We read the defense. Now, I'm more trained in it. And by the way, if let's say you're the wide receiver, you're the patient, and you look at the defense and you say, you know what, I want to run a slant. And I look and I say, you know what, that might work. I'd rather you run a post. But you know what? And if you want a slant and you score a touchdown, good for you. So if a person, now again, if they're saying something insane, like I'm going to roll on my butt, I can't throw a ball, you know what I mean? So if someone says something that's insane and I would never do it, but let's say they say something, I'm like, well, that's not my first thought, but let's try it and see what happens. And if it works, good for you. I don't get challenged. As long as you're respectful. Right? Because again, it's all about respect, and we're a team. You know what I mean? I'm looking, but it's almost like, who's the fool? If you come in here, right, and you're not even going to listen to why are you even here? Because then what is it? Just you feel insecure, and you know what I mean? You're just coming in here to tell the doctor how stupid he is because because you're mad at how your wife treats you. You know what I mean? So it just depends on the situation. So as long as I demand that we have friendship and a relationship, and we trust one another, and we're searching together for truth for you, and we have fun and we enjoy ourselves.
You ever fired a patient?
Yeah, if that's not what they want, and especially if like, for example, I always say this, listen, because sometimes people, we all get pissed off, whatever, and I always say, listen, if I can imagine myself doing what they did, I'm going to cut them some slack. I'm not going to be a hypocrite. No, I would do that to someone, but they can't do it to me.
Yeah.
That's wimp.
Good point.
But if they're saying something and you would never, it's always the same thing. For me, they're blaming me for something that obviously I had nothing to do with. For example, let's say I say, hey, they want to use a certain pharmacy, and I call in and the pharmacy messes up and they're mad at me. And I'm like, I don't own that pharmacy. They don't work for me. They don't care what I think. You get my point?
I do.
Or I have them go to a cardiologist. I'm going to bring up, and this would never happen, Mark. Or I refer them to a certain urologist, and they don't have a good experience. That would never happen, Mark. But anyway, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And they're mad at me.
Yeah.
I'm like, I said you needed to see a urologist, and you went, and you had a bad experience. Okay. So they're blaming me. I always get rid of them.
For the referral.
Yeah.
That's really good, because I've talked to a lot of physicians that have had that, where they refer someone, there's a bad experience, then the primary provider questions who they referred them to, whether they want to keep referring them to somebody.
Well, it depends. But it all depends. What's the situation? You know what I mean? Because, some people have a bad day. There's always two sides to every story, right? But if you start saying the same thing over and over, it depends on like that Fu Manchu guy. It depends on the situation. And I'm never going to slander people. What do I know?
The sign of blaming you is a sign of distrust.
Yeah, exactly. And the fact that, preventing lawsuits, if they're going to blame me when nothing bad happened to them, and I had nothing to do with it, it's like, I don't want to play this game with you. I like playing games where we're both adults, right? Like for me, it's what I'm not going to try to hurt you. I'm going to take ownership of everything, but I'm not going to work with these people who, by the way, have borderline personality disorder is what that is.
Yeah.
They're just, because themselves, they can never do wrong. But everyone else is a scumbag and they're just waiting for you to prove it because of some nonsense.
Yeah.
Right. So they have a psychological problem, and hey, I'm going to pray for them and I hope it's going to, narcissism, borderline, whatever it is. And I'm not going to judge them, but I'm not going to play games with them.
Yeah. That's good.
And what I always do is I try to be nice. I'll say, here's the way I look at it. It's sort of like this. You are coming in here saying, I want a beautiful painting to hang over my mantle. And I'm like, yeah, I know just what you want. And I start painting. And you're like, that looks like Picasso. I hate Picasso. Well, guess what? That's how I paint. So it doesn't mean I'm a bad painter. It doesn't mean you have bad taste, right? It just means you need to find a different painter. God bless you. And if I see him in Publix, I go over him, I give him a hug. But
yeah, that's
done,
sometimes
baby.
hard to do with large egos. There's enough physicians and attorneys, with large egos where they wouldn't be able to do that. So
Yeah,
you
I don't
didn't take
worry
my
about it.
advice, so I don't need you.
I don't look at it that way. I always, I'm looking for, I love humans. I love people.
Yeah.
People are cool. People have flaws and burps and farts and warts. There's nothing wrong with it because we don't want to be robots. There's no fun in robots, right?
Yeah.
So as long as, it all depends, and by the way, if someone apologizes and they mean it, you gotta say, we're cool.
Yeah.
You gotta,
I agree.
You gotta.
I agree. So we're going to start wrapping up here. I just have a couple rapid fire questions for you.
I need to rap?
Yeah. Yeah. You can wrap your answers if you want. I haven't tested that yet.
My rapping skill. Okay, well, hold on.
Best biohacking book or podcast?
See, I do my own thing, and I'm not wearing a ring. There's my rap.
Okay.
So,
We're going to have to remix that last answer there. All right. So go-to habit for staying mentally sharp.
Go-to habit. Well, your brain is a muscle, right? So use it. Read and avoid the screen, that blue light, especially before you go to bed. Sleep is so crucial for your brain. You're rebooting. Stay away from TV. Go back. It's like everything. Go back old school, baby. Go back to books and classics, and reading, and then do other things for your brain.
Yeah.
All kinds of things that are challenging to your brain. Reading, whatever, and do different things. And you have something you enjoy.
Yeah.
Right. That's what I would say. Make sure you sleep well. And if you're not sleeping, which is very common, what is it? And you don't just want to take Ambien. What's the excess that's causing this insomnia? What's the deficiency? What's going on?
Favorite source for recovery or downtime?
What's that? Favorite source? What do you mean?
So you mentioned that you did the sauna this morning.
Oh, yeah. So
some people meditate. Some people do read for their.
Yeah. So any of that, by the way, that's crucially important, right? So for me, I like to do it like I'll start the day and end the day reading and praying, right? I think that's helpful because it works for me. Mm-hmm. And then the other thing is with my exercise, which I love, right? I have to for me, I don't know about you. For me, I don't have to force myself to do resistance training, strength training, right? I have to force myself to do cardio, but when I do it, I feel great. And I have to force myself to do stretching, but after I'm done, I feel great. So, like for example, every day, I've been a pretty good vibe here for the past period of time, where I'll do my 30 minutes of cardio regardless, and I'll do 15 minutes of stretching regardless. And when you're doing it, you're focusing on breathing, and well, I'm telling you, feel so refreshed. It's really good.
I like that.
That's what I do.
What's one quote, mantra, or principle that keeps you grounded?
Keeps me grounded. God is real. Truth is real. Trust God. Love God. Try to be trustworthy, right? And love yourself and love others because God loved you first.
I love it. That's a great point to end on. Beyond your clinical credentials, what kind of legacy do you hope your patients and your peers remember? How you showed up, who you honored, what clarity you left behind, things like that.
Well, hopefully and here's the thing. One of the worst things a doctor can ever do, one of the most horrific things, and then, what you should do is the opposite of this, is like, oh, you have so many months to live or whatever. They're incapable. How many people are there? Yeah, they told me I have 6 months to live. That was 18 years ago. All right. Hope is good. I always say, I'm going to do my best. You're going to do your best. You look okay right now. Enjoy today. Live in the moment. I say, listen, we might never meet again. Matt, we might never meet again because I'm driving home and I'm going to get in a car accident. But you know what? I'm having a good time right now, Matt. Live in the moment. Be positive. When you interact with people, it's an adventure. It's cool. Being human is cool. Everyone is just as unique as you with their mom and their dad and their brother and all their experiences in elementary school, all of that. It's my head starting to hurt how cool it is, right?
Yeah.
So we're so stuck So do things like that. You want to do it like, man, I feel ready to go. I love this.
Yeah.
Interact with people, show them love, but be with humans. Don't judge them, right? Throw positive energy at other people. If it bounces back, go, baby, go. If they're an energy vamper and suck it out, stop. Pray for them, move on.
Yeah.
Don't think you can change them. They will suck the life out of you, and you're just living in the misery they're in. Whatever. Don't judge. Maybe they're having a bad day, right? So I would hope I'm a positive influence, right? And actually my main hope from the patients is they're like, because they come in, I have all these Eastern Orthodox Christian iconography. They're like, this guy seems pretty smart and he seems to know God is real. Maybe God is real. Yes, God is real. That would be the single most important
we should
thing.
end on that.
Yeah.
Speaking of positive energy, I think you're doing a good job, doctor, because when we met this morning,
Right.
I could feel it emanating from you as soon as you walked into my office.
I'm going to pick up this building and throw it.
I was like, gosh, I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to keep up with this guy, but,
That's right.
but we're trying. So I thank you again.
You're doing, baby. You're not trying. I just want to remember, don't try. Do. Do your best. Don't try.
I love it. I'm so glad I had you on today. I really appreciate your time.
Fun.
God
Appreciate
bless
it.
you too. Thanks again.
You got it. All right. Good stuff.